It is May 14th, Thursday, May 14th. We are just about halfway through May. It's hard to believe. Today we're going to read chapters 31 and 32. Tomorrow is Pizza Friday, and so 5 fans will win a pizza delivered to their door. And Sarah Nofke will be joining us. Should be fun. And TR and Charlie might show up again just to join in as well, which would be great. Lone Valkyrie will be out soon, as the book 3, as well as The Last Dance, book 8 of Scions of Magic. And we can hear what Sarah's got going on. Leila's asleep behind me. Lois is at daycare playing with the big dogs, so it's quiet around here. It's amazing how much she adds. She is like a puppy, even though she's almost 6 years old. And so if it is May 14th, then shoot, this has been going, the whole pandemic thing has been going on for a couple months. Hope everyone's doing well, finding things to do. The puzzles that I ordered at the beginning of all of this arrived today. So I guess I'll get to do a puzzle this weekend. Meanwhile, I am busy working on several books, one of them being the Lyra books. Gothdrauth 3, the mega book, will be out June 21st, but the pre-order is on now. And WarMage Undeniable will be out May 24th, I think, if that's a Sunday. And it's on pre-order now. So you can pre-order them now. You don't have to worry about remembering. They will show up in your Kindle. Or if you're in KU, you can wait till that day and read away. I think I've covered all the books. The Adventures of Maggie Parker is now a box set, so you can read them all really fast if you haven't gotten to those yet, in the Terra Novice universe, as well as The Witch Next Door, a standalone series. It's now in box set as well. We are almost done with WarMage Unexpected, so we're going to do Daniel Codex next week because it's one of my favorites. The WarMage chapters will only be on my... Somebody is mowing their lawn, and for some reason that really gets Leila going. So she's howling. I can't even let her out when someone's doing that because she will race up and down the fence line barking at them without end until they're done. So for their sake and hers, because she's an older dog, she is mystery. We think she's around 13 or 14 years old. But anyway, where was I? I forget. Okay, well, we'll just start with chapter 31. Hello, Diane. Hi, Grace. Thanks for doing the watch party. And we may be accompanied by Leila the whole way. And hi, Nancy, and hi, Mitch. I hope you're here too. So remember, pizza tomorrow. Bring your lunch if you're not one of the 5 winners, but you might be. And 1 p.m. Central Time, we will be here with Sarah Nofke and whoever else shows up. So chapter 31, here comes Leila. So she will be our background special effects for today. Chapter 31. Leander and Raven landed back at the Moss Ranch, alighting near his destroyed pen. William came running with several hands, all of them holding weapons. Some of them with an arrow already set in the bow, the string pulled back. Raven stood up in the stirrups, holding up her hands. "It's all right. Stop, stop. He was coming to rescue me." William stopped where he was, ashen, and took a better look at Raven. "Are you all right?" he shouted. "Were you hurt?" "I'm okay, thanks to Leander. He got there just in time." She kneeled on the dragon's neck and swung her legs around, sliding off to the ground, and took up her position again under his head, holding out her arms. "You want to harm this dragon? You have to go through me." Leander let out a low rumble that sounded like a purr, steam blowing out his nostrils. "He's my familiar now," said Raven, "and I will protect him with everything I have. My life, if I have to." William stopped and put a hand on his hip, waving his other arm. "All right, I know this look. Put down your weapons. Let her explain. She'll fight all of us if we don't, and George, I'm pretty sure she can take you." That's a feral dragon that broke out of a pen, fought off a spell. He's more dangerous than all the others, shouted one of the trainers. Yeah, I know, but my name is still on that gate, and I say stand down. William looked at Raven. What do you mean he's your familiar now? He passed the test at Fowler's. Headmaster Flynn has given his blessing. I thought you said he left for a rescue. Raven smiled, wiping her face on her sleeve. It turned out to be both. One test down, one to go. William turned to face the others. Go back to work. I heard that, Rowdy. If you don't like it, you can take it up with my old man. Go on, you're burning daylight. There's nothing more to see here. He turned and came closer to Leander. Okay if I pet you? Only if you've grown tired of that arm, growled the dragon. Fair enough. William slowly pulled back his hand. Raven's familiar, not mine. Can't say as I've ever had a dragon as a familiar. He grabbed Raven in a tight embrace. One test down. Congratulations. He stood back and shook his head. I should not be surprised, Raven Albee. Something special about you. Still one test to go, and not much time. She reached up with her hand and rubbed Leander's jawline. True, but I think I have something that will put your mind at ease, and it's in just a little while. The level 1 trainers get together the days before testing begins. It's so they can scope out the competition and get a chance to test your dragon under the pressure of other new dragons. You can test Leander one last time before the trials when it counts. William looked up at Leander. You're going to have to come in on a leash and leads or it's a no-go. You have to agree to that now. Raven looked into the large eye right next to her head. Not much longer, she said softly. It has to be done. I agree. William reached up and grabbed the bars of the nearby fence, leaning forward and pressing his forehead against it. Here's the thing. Competition is stiff. Every year, no exceptions. You don't want to just be fast enough. You want to be the fastest one out there. The judges for the trials will be there watching as well. And if you're the fastest one, you get an exemption and are considered passed. Raven stopped brushing the silt off her pants, peeling off the pads she was still wearing. A loophole. You never mentioned that before. He clicked his tongue. Because I didn't think you stood a chance of getting this far. You were a human marble for a while there. Besides, I didn't want you to get your hopes up for an early reprieve. If he's not the fastest tonight, there's still the trials. You have 3 more chances. He shook his head. But I don't know. I think you could take the whole thing tonight. Maybe. Don't forget, it's a tough field. Everyone will be riding for their life. She looked at him with disbelief. Because eventually all the losers have their wings clipped. She put her hand on Leander's neck, feeling the scales ripple under her hand. Well, yeah, sort of. There are usually about 20 trainers with dragons every year. The lost causes are the ones who get clipped. If a dragon does well but they just didn't win, they get a chance at the trials. They get 3 more tries. Raven bit her bottom lip and pressed her hand to her chest. She could feel his energy passing through her. We can do it. William clapped his hands. Good, but don't get cocky. You'll be up against some of the best who have been training dragons for years, and they want to win just as much as you do. He looked at her covered in silt and sweat, and he smiled. You'll need to change. I have some old clothes from a trainer that should work, but be ready for anything. Raven stood next to Leander, waiting for William, slowly pacing back and forth, her satchel banging against her back as she held onto the strap. She shook out her hands and took in a deep breath, puffing out her cheeks as she blew it out. That's not helping, growled Leander. I can sense your heartbeat. You were calmer fighting that young mage. I do better in battles. It feels like I have more control. This time we go before judges. The fastest time wins. That seems pretty simple. The fastest team who also accurately completes the course. The judges can decide who did a better job if it's close. We have 3 more chances after that. We can do this, Raven Albee. We are a good team. Raven jerked her head to look at the dragon, her brows knit together and her long, thick red braid sliding over one shoulder. Since when are you the philosophical one? Where's the fire and threats? Why aren't you promising to throw me in the middle of the program and fly off? Wait a minute. You haven't made more than a casual threat in a while. Are you feeling okay? You've changed over these past few weeks. You're not doing this to prove something anymore. You really care about what happens to me. The dragon took a few steps, the muscles rippling under his scales, moving in a ripple along his skin. I'm sorry it took me so long. All I could see was what I wanted and how to get it. For a long time it seemed like you were in the way. Now I get it. Tell me. His low voice rumbled as he settled down, shaking the ground around Raven's feet. I was trying to do everything alone. I didn't trust anyone, not really. But we're all meant to work together. We have to trust each other, and then we have the best chance. She slid the strap of the satchel over her head and secured it to the saddle. I'd like to say that I've let go of wanting any particular outcome, but not for you. I can't. I can't stand by and see your wings clip. You deserve to fly and soar and be a warrior, Leander. With you, WarMage. William approached, leading Teo. Ready to go? Game faces on. You two can do this. Okay, Flyboy. The dragon let out a low rumble that sounded like laughter. Raven grinned, opening her mouth in surprise. That's the first time I've heard you laugh. Really laugh. Nice to know the insults haven't completely left. Just aimed at someone else, said William with a crooked smile. He put a foot in the stirrups of Teo and hoisted himself onto his back, taking hold of the reins. Raven did the same with Leander and settled in, sitting back till her weight was balanced. Tonight we ride. It's afternoon. What was that for? Laughed William. I don't know. It sounded good. Raven smiled as the large red dragon spread his wings and lifted easily into the air, quickly gaining altitude, the wind rushing past Raven's face and making her coat flap in the breeze. I'll take the lead, shouted William, soaring almost close enough for the wingtips to touch. Raven nodded and he pulled to the left, heading due west toward the outlying town of Nadine, a popular trading post known to cater to dragon trainers. Raven saw a stretch of puffy white clouds just above them and reached up her hand. Without even looking back, Leander suddenly lifted his head and soared upward, passing through the middle of the clouds. Raven laughed, tears in her eyes, as they pushed through, popping out for a moment with William still just below them and disappearing again, only to reappear one more time just moments later. The dragon looked back and smiled, showing the 2 rows of sharp teeth before he tucked his wings enough to dive back down and fly alongside Teo and William. They flew near the edge of the mountain range, and Raven looked down in time to see a line of gnomes disappear into a cave. Every now and then, as they flew over the open prairie, she saw long strips of overturned dirt that ended with a circular swirl of soil. There weren't many, but they seemed to form a pattern, all pointing in an easterly direction toward Brighton. I had almost forgotten. She held onto the saddle and pressed her foot against the webbing of the wing and leaned to the right to get a better look as Leander flew lower, sensing her desire. That's at least a pretty large animal that made those. No, shake it off, Albie. She sat back upright in the saddle as Leander gained altitude again. Today is about helping Leander win. She shook her head. No swarm, just a fairy tale. She quickly patted the pockets of her jacket for the orb and looked at the satchel tied securely toward the back of the saddle. She shook her head again, pressing her lips into a thin line. Doesn't matter. The swarm is dead and gone. She let out a sigh of relief and turned to lean over the dragon's neck, facing into the wind and toward Nadine, her fingers tracing the ruby and silver pin. Chapter 32. Hope everyone's enjoying it. We're almost getting toward the end. And there goes Leela. William held onto Leander's leads by one of the holding pens, located behind a line of trees near the open area for the trials. We don't have a regular pen with the others because no one was expecting us, but someone owed me more than a few favors. Leander gets his chance today. Raven hugged him around his neck. We've got this. Never doubted you. He laughed, even as Raven punched him in the arm. You doubted me 1,000 times over, but I forgive you because you let me keep trying. I knew you would eventually get here. I always believe in you, Raven. I just wasn't sure it would be in time. Leander pulled on the lead, snorting smoke into William's face. Okay, yeah, it was you I doubted, said William, coughing and waving away the smoke. Go take a quick walk around the ground to get your bearings. It's important. The arena is set up exactly like what we had at the ranch. That will feel familiar, but go look at the other dragons. You'll see, Leander can stand up to any of them. He pointed toward the long line of concession stands. Keep walking and you'll run right into them. You can't miss them. A line of 10 other dragons stomping around. Go get a look at your competition. We'll be here when you get back. It's like I have a little dragon behind me. Raven patted Leander's side. I'll be back soon, knowing full well he could sense where she was at any given time. She made her way past the vendors selling trinkets and every kind of food on a stick. Henry would love this place. She gave a shake of her head to a woman offering her something fried with small legs on a stick. On second thought, maybe he wouldn't. She got to the edge of the pens and stood there quietly, her eyes wide at the sight of so many dragons lined up in a row outside their pens, patiently waiting next to their trainers. The trainers came in every size and shape and spanned in age, from young men strutting around in new tall boots to older silver-haired men and women waiting more patiently by their pens, calmly assessing the nearby competition. A teenage boy came running by the pens, yelling, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Get all competing dragons lined up by the temporary pens. He ran past Raven, heading back toward the arena. She followed behind him, her heart rate picking up with excitement. She was soon back standing by Leander and took the leads from William. I didn't get to see much. We cut the time closer than I realized. We were here on time. That's all that matters. Less time to worry. Raven, I'm glad I caught you. Raven, startled at the sight of her grandfather, hurriedly pushing through the crowd with Deacon at his side. He was holding a large dragon saddle, a sheen of sweat on his face. Grandfather, you're here. You're out. Has something happened? She let the leads run through her hands to the ends of them, still holding on to Leander, as she got closer to her grandfather. What are you doing here? He stopped, breathless, still holding on to the saddle. Deacon grinned at his side, showing the gap in his teeth. William sent word to the ranch, said Connor Albee. He told me what happened at the school. He licked his dry lips and took a deep breath, letting it out in a rush. I heard you were coming to the trials, and I couldn't let this wait another minute. You should have this. It's my old saddle. The words poured out of him in a rush. Raven felt the rush of energy come over her, and Leander pawed at the ground behind her, snorting. She reached out with her hand, running it over the soft leather. Your saddle, she whispered. You've had this all along. Yes. He shook his head, squeezing his eyes shut for a moment. I was trying to bury the past, hoping that would help ease the pain of what I've lost, but I was wrong. I shut out everything good about the past too, and I stopped living in the present. I don't want that anymore, and I especially don't want that for you. Here, take this and use it today in memory of your mother. One WarMage to another, mother and daughter, except this WarMage will ride a dragon. Leander lowered down onto his knees without anyone saying a word. Raven worked quickly to undo the straps underneath and slide off the old scarred black saddle. Take good care of this one. I promised Headmaster Flynn I'd get it back to him safe and sound. She put it gently on the ground in front of her grandfather and took the brown saddle with the initials C.A. burned into the side. She slipped it onto Leander, working the straps underneath, sliding her hand between the straps and the dragon to make sure they weren't too tight. The color drained from Connor Albee's face, and he reached out and put a shaking hand on the horn of the headmaster's black saddle, grabbing tight, turning his knuckles white. I remember this saddle. I haven't seen it in so many years. Raven watched him, lost for a moment to the old memories. Grandpa? He looked up, his eyes shining, and swallowed hard, letting go of the horn and patting the saddle. No, this is good. It's a sign. It's time to let go. Watching you this past month not give up despite how difficult it's been has reminded me of a thing or two. Maybe it's even time to visit Wranglers. Raven leaned over the saddle, hugging her grandfather. Thank you for everything. I love you. I love you more, granddaughter. Now go show those people what an Albee can do. We'll be in the stands. Go get him, kid, said Deacon, picking up the black saddle. I knew all that stubborn would come in handy one of these days. The pair turned even as her grandfather looked back and blew her a kiss before they turned the corner and blended in with the other spectators headed for their seats. Is that Willie Moss? A wiry old man called out as the other dragons approached with their trainers. Raven looked amused. Willie? Let's forget you heard that. William raised his voice. Hello, gentlemen, ladies. Good day for a dragon race. Raven looked behind him at the row of dragons lining up. She marveled at them all, standing at attention as their trainers charged up to enthusiastically greet William, patting him on the back and jostling him. None of them were wandering away, even though they were all left unattended. Look at them, Leander. None of them were fidgeting or wandering around. Look at that one. He didn't flambe that mouse that just ran over his foot. They trust their riders. Don't worry, we have the same bond. Maybe. Raven watched them all holding very still. Even Teo wasn't that good at staying at attention. Are we in over our heads? Leander stirred and clawed the ground. Raven looked up at him and smiled. I need to be confident for you. A man with a short black beard and thin legs supporting a skinny torso strode over to William. Willie, you're getting back in the game, eh? Seriously, this Willie is a thing? Raven smiled but shrugged when William glared at her. Abe Gerson, how the hell are you? The two trainers embraced, slapping each other on the back. Nope, I'm here to introduce Raven Albee. She's a new dragon rider. Albee, muttered Abe. Here it comes. Aren't you from a long line of mages? People can be more than one thing, said Raven coolly. Several trainers let out audible groans. Come on, Willie, you brought a witch around here? This is a race for trainers. She didn't grow up on a dragon ranch. No, Raven lifted her hand. I grew up on a goat ranch. A dwarf goat ranch. Leander opened and shut his mouth with a clack, the edges curling up in a threatening smile. This is a joke, announced the oldest of the trainers, a gray-haired old man with his hair tied up in a bun on the top. Willie, get her out of here. Oscar, hang on, no can do. She's trained a dragon, which means she has the right to compete. William held up his hands. I can understand if you're scared of another Albie riding on a red dragon. I can hold your hand while she flies if it helps. Oscar spit in the dirt near his foot, and Abe let out a chuckle. No takers? Asked William, holding out his hand. A few of them shook their heads, but they all returned to their dragons, already talking about other things. Raven smiled, even though she was unsettled, which didn't go unnoticed by William. Relax, Raven. He rubbed her shoulder. You're not here to make friends, just to win this thing. Stay focused, and if you do win, you'll get their respect by default. Win-win. Yeah, muttered Raven. Win-win. She patted Leander's red snout. Tough crowd. No kidding. A trainer shook his head, talking loud enough for everyone to hear. That little witch got the short end of the stick with her dragon. Leander's no threat. He won't take direction for very long from anybody. A few trainers laughed in response. Raven was about to say something, but William stopped her. Ignore them. Trash talk is part of the competition. That's pretty tame. It means they've decided to give you a chance. Abe was the first to saddle up his dragon, a blue and purple dragon with sharp horns on his nose and head. His wingspan was nearly twice the length of the rest of his body. That's a beautiful animal. Raven patted Leander's neck, watching Abe get ready to fly. That dragon is Zeke. Abe is one of the best trainers out there. He's been doing this a long time, said William, his hands on his hips as he watched. With a few gentle commands, Zeke shot up to the sky, looped several times, and dove toward the ground. He stopped before he hit the ground and beat his wings enough to glide in, circling the group several times. Raven's hair blew into her eyes from the wind generated by the dragon. For all his power, Leander isn't as smooth or nimble. This could be close. With fluid movements, Zeke returned to his spot, barely shaking the ground as he landed. Abe patted him on the head and easily dismounted. Everything looked so graceful to Raven. Abe reached into a sack hanging over his shoulder as she watched. He produced a small, dark, shriveled-up lizard that Zeke eagerly gobbled up. Raven grabbed William by the arm. What did you just give him to eat? That's a dehydrated lizard, dragon jerky. Dragons love those things. They're a great training tool. She punched him in the shoulder. That's information I could have used, isn't it? One more insult, growled Leander over her shoulder. Treats dragons like pets. We don't use them at Moss Ranch. Bad habit. A dragon has to want to listen to you. Besides, all the dragon jerky in the world wasn't going to work until they started listening to you. They're a teaching tool. First, you have to be able to teach. He eyed Leander, the large eye rolling toward him. Two-way street, William Moss. Fair enough. I can always learn something too. Get on your dragon, Raven. It'll be your turn soon. He wrapped his arms around her and squeezed tight. Hug for good luck, but you don't need it. You put in the work and you let the dragon into your heart. You're good to go. Raven blinked hard a few times and wiped her nose on her sleeve. Right, okay. Time to get this done. She stepped into the stirrups and pulled herself up onto the dragon, climbing into the soft leather saddle. Her knees fit perfectly along the sides as if it was made with her in mind. Raven Albee, you're next, crowed the boy she had seen earlier. He ran on past to alert another rider. Okay, I guess this is it. Do we know how anyone else has done so far? William shook his head, looking up at her, that easy smile on his face. Empty your mind of the competition. It won't matter. You are here to show them what you can do. Remember, you can't say a word to Leander during the test. They have to know you can sense what you want. Go, it's your time. The crowd of trainers hovering near the gate into the holding space parted, letting Leander march through the center, his head held up high, his ears twitching. Raven sat up straight in the saddle and looked up into the sky at the clouds. The dragon marched forward, his claws sinking into the dirt, until they reached the low metal gate into the arena. From her perch, Raven got a clear view of the course and the stands. The course was a perfect duplicate of what she had trained on, making her relax just a little. The stands were filled with spectators cheering and yelling for their favorite. She leaned over and whispered to Leander, his ears twitching. You okay with all the noise? It'll help me focus. But she saw him paw at the ground and could feel his heightened energy passing through her. Neither of them was positive of anything. Raven stood up in the stirrups and scanned the crowd, looking for her grandfather. She spotted Deacon first, waving his arms over his head and smiling wide. She smiled and waved back, sitting back down. This is a good day. She grabbed the saddle with her legs as the last dragon and his rider pulled into the exit pen and the gate in front of them opened. Indeed, said Leander, as he pushed off with his feet and headed for the first obstacle. Raven leaned forward with her weight exactly as they had practiced, lightly holding the reins and keeping her eyes on only the test in front of them. The dragon flew low enough to the ground till there was barely any daylight without dragging a claw or disturbing the fine silt. First obstacle cleared. He next approached the 600-foot wall, climbing vertically as Raven pressed her legs against the saddle and leaned all the way over, her head near his neck. He came to the top and made a sharp turn, climbing back down without banging against the wooden structure. Near the ground, he leveled out and soared along the ground, gradually gaining altitude. 2 down. The first set of rings hung in front of them on high poles. This was one of Leander's hardest targets. He built up speed, banking to the left and charging back, folding back his wings at the last moment, as Raven again lay down on his back, keeping her eyes open and holding her breath. She felt the small whoosh of air as they passed through, only one of the rings giving a slight wiggle, but they cleared them all without touching them. Next one. Raven cleared her mind, letting go of the rings. They were picking up speed, flying over the next wall, repeating the climb and turning quickly to head down toward the deep pool of water. She pressed her hands against Leander's neck. I believe in you. She pressed her lips together, watching their reflection in the water. She felt the dragon let go and fly as fast as he could at the water. You're doing it! You're doing it! The crowd roared as Leander rose into the sky, making a perfect figure 8 just beneath the clouds, his wings spread. He banked to make a low turn, rolling to his side as Raven held on, displaying she had complete control of the dragon and herself at all times as they zipped past the judges' stand. They came to the last set of rings and the next to last trial. He made a turn around the ring, building up speed, and stretched out his neck as Raven pressed herself against them. They looked like a red streak with shimmering scales as they passed through every ring. Fire escaped his mouth in a steady stream even before they cleared the last ring, lighting up the first set of bales of hay, one at a time. They flew to the second set, and he lit up every other one, turning to head for home, flying as fast as he could. They were about to pass over the judges' stand at the far end of the field as the crowd got to their feet, cheering and stomping their feet in the distance. Suddenly, Raven saw the stand shake in a rippling wave as people grabbed onto something to catch themselves. The shaking passed from left to right down a section of the bleachers, and even from afar she could see a look of fear pass among some of the spectators. She resisted the urge to stand up in the saddles or tell Leander anything new and closed her eyes, pressing her heels against his side. Fly, Leander. Give it everything you have. She felt the scales moving beneath her arms and his muscles flexing as he pushed himself to the limit, flying faster and faster. Her knuckles grazed against the ruby and silver pin on her lapel, and she smiled, her eyes still shut. We can do this together. They crossed the finish line, gradually slowing down and circled back, coming to a soft landing by the exit gate. Raven's eyes popped open and she turned in the saddle, looking back at the spectators. They were still trying to make their way off the section of bleachers that was tilted at an odd angle. No one looked panicked, and the shaking had stopped, but Raven couldn't get rid of a feeling that something was wrong. She sat back down on the saddle as the gate opened to let them out, and the last rider got ready to take the course. She waited, tapping her hands against the saddle until they were clear of the stall, and she swung her legs around, sliding off the saddle to the ground. She grabbed the leads and made her way toward William, who was smiling and waving his arms. I think you did it. It's between you and Zeke. Unless this last dragon does better than he ever has in his life. We have to wait for your final time, but you might have done it. Raven let out a loud whoop, shaking her fist in the air and patting Leander on his neck. The dragon reared back his head and let out a roar, stomping the ground. Nearby trainers rolled their eyes as someone muttered, "Newbies." Raven laughed and said, "I don't care." She handed the leads to William and hugged him. "Do you see what happened to the stands? I have to go check on my grandfather and Deacon. I'll be right back." "Go, go. I'll wait for you here with the winning dragon." Raven took off at a run, pushing and dodging her way through the dense crowd till she finally made it to the edge of the almost empty section of bleachers. Her grandfather and Deacon were still sitting on their seat watching the last rider. "Yes," shouted Deacon as the ride shook the rings. Raven climbed the uneven stands and threw herself into her grandfather's arms, hugging him around his neck. "I knew you could do it," he said, squeezing her. "You look just like Sarah out there." Raven pushed back from him and stood up on the stands, balancing on the uneven floorboard. "What happened here? Where's the black saddle?" "I don't know. The conspiracy theories have already started that someone was trying to sabotage your run. I pointed out that it would have been smarter to blow up the ring and not the spectators if that's what they wanted," said Deacon, crossing his arms over his chest. "Kind of supportive," said Raven, smiling, as she ran her hands over the saddle, searching for the satchel, still strapped to the side. She found it, unfolding the top, and slid her hand in, digging around for the orb, lost in the bottom. At last her hand wrapped around it, and she pulled it out into the sunshine. Oh. Her mouth stayed in a perfect O as her eyes widened. Her grandfather stared at the orb, the color draining from his face. It was a deep burgundy red. "Pretty red ball you got there, kid," said Deacon. "Why do you two look so strange?" Raven got up and clambered down the back of the bleachers without saying a word, the orb clutched in her hand. She went around to the side that was leaning the most and looked down at the ground. There was a long line of overturned earth that stretched far into the horizon. She stared into the distance as her grandfather caught up to her and looked down at the ground. "Holy shit," he whispered. "And the winning time goes to Raven Albee, riding the red dragon, Leander." The announcer was using a large cone-shaped megaphone standing by the pens. "We won," said Raven, breathing harder. "We did it. Leander is safe." "But are we?" asked her grandfather. "What if that damn menace is back?" Raven held up the red orb again. "That's what we'll have to find out." She looked at her grandfather. "No matter what happens, we'll do this together. We can face anything together." And that is the end of the book. That is the end of WarMage Unexpected. That means Monday will be the start of Daniel Codex. And yes, that was Leela singing. That was not Lois, that was Leela. You got to hear from the pit bull. Yes. And she's now sitting behind me quietly because they stopped mowing. But mowing really gets her. So I hope you all enjoyed WarMage Unexpected. Tomorrow is Pizza Friday. Sarah Nofke will be joining us. Maybe Charlie and TR will be back as well. I hope you've filled out your pizza entry. 5 winners. You have to fill it out new each week. So it doesn't matter if you filled it out in the previous week. You've got to fill it out new each week. And 5 people will be getting a pizza delivered to their door tomorrow. Hope everybody has a great Thursday. And that was a great end to the book. Yes, the wrong dog, but that's all right. Lois doesn't howl. When Lois tries to howl because she's deaf and imitating Leela, she sounds like someone stabbing her, but it's her version. Leela knows how to howl. I hope you all have a great day and a good Thursday, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Try and have some fun, and bring your lunch at 1 if you didn't win the pizza. We do contact you, so you'll know if you're a winner or not. We don't make you wait until there's a knock at the door. And I love you, and I will see you all tomorrow. I will actually see you. Talk to you then.